Hello and welcome. I'm Omar Saleh and this is The Other View. If you recall, in the last video we talked about culture, and that stemmed from the preceding video to that, which is talk about why strategies fail or succeed. And then we talked about the role of culture and the impact of culture and how important it is to making strategies succeed or fail. In this particular video, we're going to carry on talking about strategy as well, and we're going to talk about the different ways of looking at strategy, because there is no one way of looking at strategy. There's a variety of ways, and the variety of ways depend a great deal on the organization and the people, and believe it or not, the culture as well. So this video is about at least four different ways that sort of combine a variety of approaches to how we look at strategy. There are four different lenses. We call them lenses, how we look at strategy. There are four broad different lenses to look at strategy. And I'm going to just go very briefly in describing each one of them and probably show how the cultural background of the organization has an impact on what happens. So the first lens I want to talk about is called the experience lens, and that's basically strategy as experience. And that sees strategy from the previous experience of the organization's managers, the fact that history matters, the fact that there are lots of stories and precious moments, and it's also shaped by the people and their collective experiences and so on and so forth. So this experience lens, the way of looking at strategy, it puts a lower emphasis on rationality and innovation, but a higher emphasis on track record and legitimacy when people start thinking about strategy in particular. And if you remember, strategy is the way we achieve our objectives. So when people use the experience lens to look at strategy, they build on that history and background and so on. The second lens we look at strategy from is the variety lens. It's basically, or some people call it in academia, strategy as variety. And that emphasizes innovation and emphasizes change. And it also it makes strategy emerge from different ideas, emerging and bubbling up from new, imaginative, and innovative ways seeking change, and of course, change in the way we achieve our objectives, etc. It builds on evolutionary theories. And complexity theories. It is sometimes spontaneous generation of ideas, yeah, and because of that approach, you could probably guess that it has a lower emphasis on rationality and legitimacy, but a higher emphasis on innovation and change and new ideas. So there are fairly different approaches between those two strategies. The third lens that we look at strategy from is the discourse lens, which is strategy as discourse. And from the title of it or the name of it, it's that management is about discourse. Management spend about almost some research says that 75% of their time communicating, gathering information, persuading others, following up on decisions, and so on and so forth. The strategy is in this particular way of looking at it. It's debated in meetings, it's written as formal plans and explained with media and so on and so forth. It has a higher emphasis on legitimacy, medium to low on rationality and innovation, but it relies heavily on ideas, basically fighting against each other and bumping into each other from that perspective. And the final fourth lens, or the final fourth way of looking at strategy, is what is called the design lens, which is the strategy as design. I'd like to call it as the structured approach because it has a lot more structure into it, and the strategist sort of basically tend to sort of follow rules and techniques and methods and frameworks in doing research, where there is a lot of rational analysis, trying to almost use science in or social science in designing the strategy. Decision making is based on objective design and research. Yeah. It's high on rationality and legitimacy, and may not be as high on innovation. Sometimes it allows the process and allows the research and the thinking to sort of evolve rather than as it come out of nowhere. Here's an idea. Although there are those who are very much pro that design lens or structured approach lens, like myself, who would actually argue you can have innovation simply because if you are prepared to look at the research, look at the structure, look at the rationale, and think out of the box. It's not easy to argue that, but it is it is my preferred approach, because you are able at one stage or another from experience, yeah, basically justify the way you have arrived at your strategies, because you need to justify it not just to yourself, not just to your employees or shareholders. You need to justify it to your markets, to your people, to your supply chain, to the whole area, the world you work and operate within. I hope that sort of makes sense. So there are 4 different ways of looking at strategy. Again, strategy is how do we achieve our objectives in organizations, and it's basically the discourse, the variety, the experience, and the design. I just wanted to give that background because when we come to talk about the future of why organizations decide on strategy or look at strategy from those perspectives, we're going to relate it to culture, and we're going to relate it to the influence and impact of the various stakeholders. Stakeholders need to be very much part of that, and they need to buy into the way you look at strategy. And if you can't convince especially your important stakeholders and the ones that are powerful and take a great interest in your organization, that you are using the right approach to looking at strategy, then you will find it very difficult to make it happen. That's it. We're going to talk a little bit more about each one of these sometime in the future, but I thought it would be interesting to just now broaden the debate. I may in the future concentrate more and more on the design and structured approach because it is more tangible in my opinion, and your feedback would be extremely valuable on this. And if you like this video, please do so and join my channel. Thank you for listening.